Hi everybody, and welcome to Once Upon a Scarf. This channel celebrates the beauty of great vintage scarves, how to understand them, wear them, and appreciate them as stunning and undervalued works of art. Today's scarf is at first glance unassuming. It's a starkly designed silk square from Yves Saint Laurent. But as always with this incredible designer, there's far more here than first meets the eye. Join me now in a tale of a creative genius reaching the height of heights and the deepest psychological agony, only to surpass once again under the incredibly harsh glare of the entire high fashion world. First things first, getting an ID on this scarf. How do we know that it dates to 1962? Thankfully, online images are a gift to researchers looking to pin down time and place. This pattern of sky blue bolts against a black ground is also seen in a dress from his couture show in 1962. It also turns up here in a photo of the salon where it's surely being used to zhuzh up the room as part of the decor. So, our date is snapped in, but even if it weren't, you can tell this is a very old OG Saint Laurent, thanks to a couple of key characteristics. First, the fringed eyelash hem, a tell that is shared by other scarves produced in the 1940s and 50s by Saint Laurent's mentor, Christian Dior. Second, down in the corner, Saint Laurent's name is handwritten in a simple rectangular plate. Again, this is a sign that the scarf dates to the earlier years of the house's history. Now on to the design itself. It's jagged, a fracturing of the fabric, abstract and electrifying and beautiful all at once. These bolts may have been inspired by a movement that had swept the art world in the late 1940s and 50s, abstract expressionism, and more specifically, action painting. This was marked by fierce gestures of paint, splashed, thrown, and smeared on canvas. Well, maybe not that fierce. These slashes, gashes, drips, and sweeping strokes were intended to convey emotion, power, spirituality, and meaning. Among the best-known painters in the action painting genre were Jackson Pollock, Franz Kline, and Clyfford Still. This passionate gestural work was in the creative air, possibly influencing Yves Saint Laurent and his textile collaborator, Eric Biele. But there may be something more. For this, we need to crawl deep into the painful backstory that shadowed Saint Laurent's couture collection. Just 5 years earlier, he had been at the very top, the darling of the French establishment, when, at age 21, he took over the reins of the great house of Christian Dior. He produced stunning collections for 3 more years, until 1960, when something changed. As a young man in France, during the years of the Algerian War, Saint Laurent was obliged to serve military duty. But until then, he had been protected from the draft by influential, powerful people who wanted to keep him safely in place as the head of the design house. Well, for reasons that remain murky, in 1960, something changed. The protection evaporated, and he was called up to basic training in a military barracks outside of Paris. Naturally, it was a disaster. This hypersensitive, gay, hothouse talent was ripped apart in the coarse, brutal, bullying environment of a mid-century soldier's barracks. He lasted precisely 19 days until he was moved to a military hospital due to a nervous breakdown. But that was only the beginning of his trials. In the meantime, the House of Dior announced that Yves was being replaced by Marc Bohan. Yves spent the next 2 months in the psychiatric wards of the Val de Grace Hospital, drugged with powerful tranquilizers. Eventually, he was rescued by his lover and long-term partner, Pierre Berger. In the words of his biographer, Alice Rawsthorne, upon his release, Yves now seemed heavily steeped in depression. his words still slurred from the after effects of the electroshock treatments and powerful shots of sedatives he had been given. But with Berger at his side, he began to pull his life and his psyche back together, and thanks to the determination of his partner, they attracted the funding to start a new couture house. Now, coming back to the scarf, it seems obvious that those terrible months of stupefying drugs and harrowing electroshock treatment left their mark on the man. Did he, in turn, leave their marks on the silk fabric? Could this be a defiant assertion of finding blue sky through rips in the darkness? Or, less poetically, could it be a representation of precisely what he had suffered behind the walls of Val de Grace, and how he turned that suffering into art? Nobody thinks to talk about vintage scarves as vehicles of artistic expression, and maybe that ought to change. If you have any thoughts, please leave them in the comments below. And that's today's scarf story. I hope you enjoyed it. Please like, share, and subscribe if you'd like to see more.